Hello and welcome to the Corona Yoga Challenge. Today is day 143. I've not got my board with me and it's evening. Oh my goodness. Today we are doing a deep dive into Savasana and also lying on the back poses. They are a lovely way to settle the body and start a yoga practice, and in some ways are some of the more difficult things. Or Savasana can be a difficult pose, which is just lying flat on our back, otherwise known as corpse pose. And the idea of the body just becoming still and the mind just becoming more still as well. So what we're going to do to start with is look at variations on Savasana. So Savasana is lying on the back, feet slightly apart, the legs away from the body. And this, for some people, is very comfortable, and for other people, bending the knees up is more appropriate, better for you. Often having the arms at around shoulder height with elbows a little bit bent is good. Sometimes people are happy to have the palms up, and sometimes people really, really want the palms down. So just notice how you are on individual occasions with that. A nice variation is to take your hands up and overhead so that your hands are close in towards your head. Your elbows are bent so the shoulders stay relaxed and soft, and the elbows just widen out and away. Another thing that you can do, which can be very, very pleasant, is just to set your hands on your head, so it's just like you're lying in a field looking up at the blue sky and some clouds passing by. For some reason, putting my hands behind my head always makes me feel good in that respect, but it might just be association, so you have to try that for yourself. Another couple of things that you can do are to support different areas of the body, and this very much depends on how your body feels when you lie down. Some people are different, so you might actually just quite like a traditional pillow underneath your head. The alignment of the head and the neck are different. It's a good resting position for sleeping. I would tend to have my head flat on the floor, but there are situations when this might be more appropriate. You could have the pillow underneath your knees, which is a good one for many people. It means that the spine can kind of become more neutral as it lies onto the floor. Sometimes when we're flat, we kind of bow up and away from the floor through the back of the waist, so this sort of happens. When there's a little bit of support under the knees, it tends to sink the belly back, the back of the waist back, and the back of the body rests down, which is obviously a great thing. Another thing that you can do is, obviously you can have your feet on the floor so that we're just bent up. You can have your feet up on tippy toes, and something that it can be quite helpful for some people is when the toes are in close together, the knees are in close together, but the heels are wide. And if I just scoot my feet out to about there, it becomes quite restful. When the toes are in like this, we get a nice spread across the lower back. So this can be really helpful for some people. I wouldn't always have my toes facing in. Even if you like it, I would try and vary it every so often, so this is a more neutral posture for the knees and the back of the body. But this is a really, really nice way sometimes to start off your practice or to use every so often. What we're going to look at now is we're going to look at different ways that you can use lying on your back to do really great things for your body. So just in case you're wondering, this is week 7, page 14 of the Corona Yoga Challenge book, which you are very welcome to buy if you want one, and use with these videos or not, as you wish to. So we've just done some of the adaptations here. I think we've had a little look at all of them. Oh, we didn't do that one. And that was hips lying on a block. Here we go. Here's one I made earlier. So when you're lying like this, it's very, very even through the back of the spine, and the legs can be quite restful. When you lift your hips up, it can be more restful because we get the hips slightly higher, which places the heart slightly higher, which means the head's lower down by comparison. So this is a really, really lovely way to rest if you're feeling really, really tired. And another thing that you can do from here is you can take your legs so that they're up a wall, so that the knees remain bent and you're just resting out like this. And it's a really, really restorative pose. So I think I should, I've got these curtains here which are going to be super annoying. But to do that, you would sit yourself close in towards the support, so about that much, maybe 10 centimetres away, so it is quite easy to flip yourself round so that your hips are now still a little bit away from the support. Got your feet on the wall, soles of the feet go onto the wall to lift the hips up, hips come down and onto the block sits lower than the back of the waist, so do you see there it's low on the back of my pelvis, it's not up here and then jamming the back of my waist, it's quite low, so that my hips can really, the back of the pelvis, the nice bony bit, can settle onto the block. And from here I just let my feet come up a little bit and you can just rest here. It's a very, very peaceful place to be. We're going to look at some other more active things that you can do from lying on your back now. So often in class we start with this sort of movement, a nice moving in and out of the knees. It's really, really good for the back of the body, the lower back in particular. As you work back and forwards, you get nice movement through the tummy, and you can exaggerate that if that feels good for you, so there can be that drawing back and in. And then we can go from one side to the other side. Again, start smaller, make sure you're feeling as you go along, so noticing how it feels for you. And then from here, you can take your feet onto the floor, hands can come wide, you can let your knees just rock over to one side. And again, look for that really easy kind of cat in the sun sort of position, where your body just feels natural, relaxed, and not like it's trying too hard. And then obviously whenever you're doing a yoga pose, I'd advise doing both sides. Every so often there's an asymmetry in the body that you can work with by just doing one side, but generally go with both and let your body even itself out through time, as is likely to happen. So these are two of the things that you can do lying on your back. What else have we got on our little list of suggestions? Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, of course. So we just did one where our feet were a little bit wide on the floor. You can take your feet much wider, so we've got really wide movement through the knees as you twist from one side to the other side. And the other thing that you can do for twisting on your back is you can take your knees in towards your chest, hug round with one hand, and we're going to go over in the direction of your fingertips, so you roll onto your side, and then you can let your hand come out and away. Now it might be this hand is better settled onto the side of your waist or onto the rib cage, so you can gently open out, or it might be onto the floor. But that movement of bringing the knees in to come over can be really, really helpful. And then draw your knees up to the centre, and obviously we'd swap over arms, that's just so that you've got space to move. And then roll yourself over to the opposite side, and easy out and open. So another nice thing to do when you're here is just to work with the position of the spine in your breathing. So that is arching the back of the waist up and away, breathing in and then breathing out, draw back with the tummy, sink the back of the waist down towards the floor and breathe out. So we get that breathing out sensation. Breathing in, we get a sense of opening out, breathing out, drawing back and down. And use the pelvic floor as you go, so allow the pelvic floor to work with the movement of the breath. And usually you'll find that as you breathe out and you draw the back of the waist down, the pelvic floor draws up, the tummy draws up and in as well, or up and back towards the floor. And you're looking for the tummy and the pelvic floor to be working together so that we are strengthening both at the same time. The last thing that we're going to do, which is really great when you're lying on your back, is just a little bit of breath awareness. So it's a really nice place where you take your hands low onto your body and you just breathe into your hands and notice how your breathing is. Or you can do specific breaths, so you can do your lotus flower hands, or you can do your jai breathing here. But it's just quite a neutral, easy position for the spine, which makes it really, really good. And the last thing that I want to show you before I go is what I showed was a pillow underneath the head, however, probably about this much. Everyone's slightly different, but you could take maybe just one book or 1.5 books, this is probably a little bit much. You can take this underneath your head, and do you remember how we put the block low down so it's not coming into the soft arching of the spine back here, so it's sitting low across about here. With the books, you want to take the books just onto the skull, so that again it's not affecting the curve of the back of the neck, so all the little vertebrae there. And this is a little bit too much, I think, so that I've got a tiny little block in, or a little book, just a normal book, but that's just enough to give me a feeling of a nice length through the back of the neck. And you might find that more comfortable than just being flat on the floor. And that's if you're wanting to set yourself up for a nice little bit of time there. If you're just in a few minutes, it's probably maybe not worth the bother. But those are just some really nice ideas for how you can enjoy doing Savasana or lying on your back pose. So I hope you have a little fun with them over the next week. And and for those of you who come into yoga class, I'm looking forward to seeing you this week. And those of you who think you might want to, then do get in touch. All the best. Thank you. Bye.